Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's up, Kataria? How you doing?
Hey, Devin, this is good. This is great. All right. So, everybody that is joining us here on TikTok Live, we wanted to let you all know that Devin and I are friends that have come together first off over, slight disagreement about a particular manga, but we were able to reconcile that and not, of course, we're on the same page for the most part, as well
Mhm.
as we've been friends ever since. With our main goal as brothers is to share the gospel of Jesus Christ through this social media, as well as through YouTube. We both have YouTube channels, which you can get to our links in the bio. But we have that relationship together because of our relationship with the Lord above all else. And what we're looking to do today is come together and just talk about the holiday of Halloween. Just discuss, what we've learned of its history, discuss what we've dealt with growing up as individuals of Christ and, facing Halloween, as well as how do we think we should go about that today as believers, even more so for those that don't believe in Christ that are on this page. Just know we're sharing our point of view, whereas you might have an assumed point of view, or you just want to know what our perspective is. So that's why you're welcome here in this live to have this conversation.
Absolutely. So the first thing that Kentaro had for us to talk about is actually what do we know originally about Halloween's origins and its practices. And honestly, I was just gonna be straight. I don't know too much about Halloween's origin or its original practices and that nature. All I know is that when I was growing up, when I was a little kid, people will always be like, Halloween is the devil's birthday or the devil's holiday, and that's just something that I always grew up with. And then after that, like I didn't really hear anything about it. I don't actually truly know what Halloween is supposed to be about, but at the same time, as I've grown older and gotten more spiritual, of course, and growing closer to Christ, there's just a few things in it that are quite alarming to me. But like, what do you know about Halloween's origin and like its practices?
Man, so my parents were kind of, we're gonna let you know real early. Like, so my parents were like that. Even with Christmas, I've ruined several kids' Christmas in kindergarten. Santa isn't real. So like that was I was that kid. That's how bad it was.
Okay.
Um, but when it came to learning about its origin, I learned one in part that it's when we're talking about what made it so highly celebrated, it's really kind of stemming from paganism more than anything. And it
Yep.
is recognizing, I believe it is Hallows Eve, which, if I have this correct, basically a celebration of the harvest. But when we're talking about celebrating that harvest, there are concerns with what can hinder the harvest. So, for an example, what they would do is, and this speaks to the dressing up in costumes, they would wear animal skin that they think were ferocious or threatening, and then they would dance around fires and hold a party to ward off any spirits. So that's why the dressing up comes into play. You dress up as something that would scare spirits.
Okay, I got you. That is significantly different than what than what we're doing today. But I like that. Things are always different originally, and then we get a hold of them and we absolutely transform them to something else.
Oh yeah, and then here when we're talking about the pumpkins, whenever they decorated the pumpkins and would put it on their front porch, that is to scare evil spirits as well. So that's why that's there. Now, when we're talking on an even more serious note as to what sparks those frustrations and concerns when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to celebrating Halloween, is you had those that were druids at a certain point in time in history that would go kidnap virgins or children and innocent people to sacrifice to, again, either appease some deity or Satan in some practices, or things of that nature. That's where the whole sacrificing part comes in at, and where Christians are so strongly against it. And it's like, don't you know that they sacrificed people on this day back then? So that's what made it so
Mm-hmm.
serious. And that's where that's my takeaway with that, is just like, oh wow, they did that back then, and now we're celebrating it like this. How could we do that? Like, growing up, that's where I was at. I'm like, don't y'all know? So it's a little freaky.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine if a lot of people knew that, they'd be like, "And I don't know," but although sometimes people don't care, and I know one thing that both me and you do is like we try to repurpose things for the glory of God. But Halloween, with a background like that, you might not be so willing to do so. But speaking of the pagan sacrifices of things, especially the demons, it reminds me of dang, where is it in the Bible? It's a story in the Old Testament. I don't remember particularly which group of people, but how they would like put people through fire and sacrifice their children in order to appease their idols or their false gods, which oftentimes is more than not what people
I just got to Deuteronomy 14, and I think it's in either chapter 13 or 14 where it starts to speak of that, because God's telling them, hey, don't worship these gods. Don't even worship in the same locations that they do. Go where I tell you. And he was saying, because these people went as far as sacrificing their own daughters and their sons to appease and worship their gods, and differentiating himself from what their practices were. So that's a part of that in some way. Whether or not they did that at that time for Hallows Eve, I cannot say with 100% certainty. But that's where that kind of stems in at, is that practice there. But it is strongly connected, and that's a, when we're saying something scary, that is a scary thing. Where we'll say, and it's one of those things I don't like that said is, well, that was in the past. We do this now. And even if they didn't know it, it's okay. This is how I do it. Like, hold on. You can't just disregard what happened, especially if you're not covering yourself against what used to happen, because the things of the past will come to meet you at the door like, hey, you celebrating what we used to. What's up? And you're not prepared for that kind of encounter. And you're not prepared properly for that encounter. So that's where my mind goes with that when we're talking about the fear or the concerns with that.
It's crazy how we go from sacrificing people to what we have now in giving out candy. I don't know where that transition came from, but still the dressing up and things, that's the one thing that stays here. But it's almost like, rather than as you said, they were warding off evil spirits, it's like people want to be the evil spirits, which I think is like kind of an interesting twist amongst Halloween.
Say that last part again. I'm sorry, I missed you.
Oh, it's like rather than people dressing up to ward off evil spirits, they dress up as the evil spirits that I would imagine somebody want to ward off instead. And I think that's just kind of an interesting twist to how I guess how you celebrate it.
Well, I would say that, man, I hate to say it like this, but in some sense, where I would think the thought process is, or the underlying thought process is, that's where, in some sense, demon possession, spiritual influences, those type of things get an open door. And I don't say that like it's happening with every kid that puts on a ghost costume, oh, you're about to be possessed by a spirit. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is, you're becoming the threat versus you embodying something to come against the threat. So that's an extremely different thing. And when you're dressing yourself up as that threat, that, like I said, that's when that door is open, because people attach themselves to that, and that just links back to my my YouTube video on demons in representation of anime. I'm not going into anime, I promise, but that's where that happens. Is it's the symbolism. So when someone is symbolic to, let's say a demon, I'm viewed as a demon. My parents did something evil, so I'm the child of a cursed or demonic person. So they embody that. So then they go to Halloween and then they dress up as that. This is how I'm being seen, so I am embodying that. And depending on how we respond to that, can either result in them leaving that type of past behind and being set free, or them embracing it more because we are, well, yeah, you are corrupt. You wore a ghost costume. Yeah, you are corrupt because you came from a father that killed and raped people. So when we treat people like that, we're pushing them more into that direction rather than leading them away, which is our responsibility, is to lead them away from that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Dang, that is incredible. And Jesus is Alive has said something in particular that I remember seeing. What's his name? KP State Preacher was talking about. They had said they always thought that witches or people who worship Satan would pray over candy and give it to children, and so that's why they weren't allowed to trick or treat. And that made me think about something, because I had to think about this topic a little bit before coming on here, but that makes me think of places like New Orleans, right? I've been in New Orleans like once in my life, and that was before I was a Christian, but even still there, I felt like the heavy spirits that were there. And then also with the background in New Orleans with voodoo and witchcraft and things of that nature, I wouldn't be surprised that during this time of Halloween, where you find that, our brothers and sisters in Christ, they come out saying like, Halloween is a day that witches come out to play and attack Christians and things of that nature, because, that's what they used to do, like I don't find it very surprising that they would indeed pray over candy and things of that nature. Because one thing I've been learning, because I've been learning a lot about the satanic kingdom, is that a lot of the things that we do, they do the same thing, except sometimes they actually go harder than we do, which is actually kind of wild to me, because we got the authentic, most powerful
Oh
God, and
man,
we go hard for
that's
him
a whole
as
nother ball game.
I know that's a whole nother ball game, but I wouldn't find it surprising. And Halloween has a lot of spiritual warfare like around it. There's so much that we can talk about, and we can break it down one by one. But I wouldn't be surprised by the fact, or yeah, I know this has to happen, that witches and warlocks, pray over this candy to give the children, so that demons and things can attack them and attach onto them, and then affect them in their lives, and their parents don't know about it. And it's kind of interesting to me, because like when I was younger, I would always get my candy checked for razors in it. And like this is like a step above that. And it's like people knew the danger of it already, but then now there's a more present spiritual danger that I've been made aware of. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're kind of getting into that next section too of, what is it that we kind of grew up with? What was it like growing up when it came to Halloween? And you're right. That's one of the things I learned too. I used to read a lot of those chick pamphlets that, that Christians give out to tell people stories and to lead them in Christ and stuff. And so I read a lot of the Halloween ones. You learn a lot about what the type of stuff that they do, and that was one of the things. Was there was a witch living in a neighborhood, and that's what she did. She gave some kids some candy. One kid got a needle, another kid got a razor, and then the third kid got a demon spirit. So it was just like, oh my goodness. But when you think about the razors and needles, what that does is that triggers a trauma, which causes fear, which without having to put a spirit in something, it opens the door for the spirit to come in and to dwell in someone's vessel. um, just to kind of share some of the stuff that I learned when it came to spirits making themselves evident within a person is
Mm-hmm.
they do it through trauma, and so then they come in, and when they come in, there's a complete character change. Like you might have a kid that loves to go outside, car accident happens, they don't want to no longer go outside. That can be the start of a spirit having a place within that child. And so that's where, when I was a kid, man, my parents were just like, we're locking in. We're not going outside. We're not doing anything. We stay in the house. We didn't go to trunk or treat. We didn't go and have special church services. We were in the house. That was it. Granted, I snuck around and watched some scary movies from time to time, but we stayed in the house. That was my childhood.
Okay, so for my childhood, I don't like scary movies. Not like that. I used to watch a few, like I watched Insidious and things like that when I was younger. I love zombie movies though, and I still kind of like zombie movies, because I don't think they're really scary, to be honest. It's just they're more grotesque, if anything. But for my childhood, we definitely we celebrate Halloween just a few times just to get some candy. I always dressed up as something cool, like a ninja or a samurai, something like that. Not
Nice.
like a demon, scary clown. Like ain't nobody trying to do that. I know I dressed up as a Power Ranger once before as well. And then, my mom, her growing up, she grew up in like a Pentecostal church
Okay.
down here in Atlanta West. And the funny thing that she always says to me is that they were so willing to celebrate Halloween, and like they went like all out in terms of decorating everything and celebrate Halloween. And so she was like, I mean, I was used to it, so I'll let you guys celebrate it. But then at that time, she wasn't nearly as spiritually mature as she is now. So we did celebrate Halloween for just a few years.
Hmm.
When I got here, then I think the moment we started going to another Pentecostal church, that we kind of just phased out of it, low key, because my sister was older, and then she didn't really care for candy like that, and like neither did I, so that didn't matter. So I think that was very interesting how like, and then on top of that, there's always like the church is doing the trunk or treat, and it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's almost like a compromise in a way for Halloween.
Right.
Like we want them to have the experience of trick or treating, but not with the facets of Halloween that come along with it. So we'll just have trunk or treat. Like here, you can get candy in a safe place and things of that nature. I only went trunk or treating once. I didn't like it, but I mean, I never really liked trick or treating either, because I always got scared, because there's always some scary
Hmm.
house somewhere, or like it's just. But yeah, that was my childhood when it came to Halloween. But I just thought it was interesting how, for my mother, like her church just like really celebrated and got into it for Halloween, and so she passed that on to me until I got older. We started talking about it, and then I'm just like, I'm not gonna let my kids celebrate Halloween, but you let me do it, but I'm okay, because I got a praying mama.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, and I always felt weird. Not like, well, why can't I celebrate it? It's like, well, why are we doing nothing? Like that was where I was. I always thought that way. You mean you taught me the origin, you taught me all the stuff they used to do, but I was just like, why aren't we doing anything? I mean, and then even when people did trunk or treat, I was like, okay, cool, but being brought up, did just to try to link this, being brought up with in a Christian home since birth, um, you're taught certain things for and against that type of thing, and one of the things that I learned and value is learn the origin of a thing before you just go and do something, because you run the risk, of course, of spiritual interference. But then when you learn the origin of a thing, you can go and do certain things in wisdom without risking spiritual, interference or interactions that you definitely don't warrant. Um, so that's where, when we're looking at Halloween, Hallows Eve, a time to celebrate and cover our harvest. Why can't, and I say this, that's my thought process when Christians are trying to do something, is like, well, why can't we do something with that in mind? Because that the children of the Lord did that. The year Jubilee wasn't just to free people out of their slavery, send them back with their riches. We were also celebrating that we have a good harvest. Why can't we as Christians celebrate there being a good harvest, celebrating that we have, blessings from the Lord that have allowed us to survive and to thrive and to, above all else, to share his word with people. We should have more of a reason at this time than anybody else for celebration. I mean, that's just me.
You're absolutely right. It's funny because I just read in the Old Testament, but I didn't. That just didn't register with me. But I think a lot of that comes from, like, when it comes for a Christian, why won't we do something, comes from like the world and how the world views that thing and how the world commonly does that thing. Because I'll be honest with you, the amount of genuine Christians versus those that just claim to be Christians are, it's the genuine Christians are much smaller. We know that. And so because of the way that the world does things, that's also going to be the way that those that just claim Christ also do those things. And that affects all of us, because regardless of like us trying to be set apart, oftentimes we do move along with the world. So even if like we should, or even if like it's a good idea to celebrate this harvest time that the Lord has for us and that he's done in the past with the Israelites, like everybody's still going to associate this one day with Halloween, the thing that we shouldn't participate in. And so then everybody else is going to be like, nah, no, you shouldn't do anything this day because Halloween is dominated by this day. An example of this is my own personal example, is why I dislike being called spiritual, and I also dislike being called religious. But at the same time, they're very valid things to be called. And that's because of New Age spirituality and things of that nature. So that's why I don't want to be called spiritual. And then legalism is also then why I don't want to be called religious. And that's the same thing when it comes to Halloween as well. Is that like we're so like ingrained, and the world is so focused on what is already there, that anything that could possibly be associated with this, everybody just kind of like takes out the ground and just throws out essentially.
Okay. So you got me thinking about several different things. I'm gonna try and keep myself under control and not get all over the place. Okay. So I agree with you. Trying to make something that's already been claimed by the world into something for us. I agree with you there. What I would challenge, and not challenging you, but challenging believers, is when did we give the world something that belongs to the Lord?
That's my boy Kentario right there.
That's so serious to me. Why would I give my harvest? Why would I give my blessings, shut down my praise for them to have a day, for the devil to even have a night? Why would I give him that? I don't want to give the devil a time. I don't want to shut myself out and hide when I could be doing something more. Now, to challenge my own self. Okay, because like I said, I was reading in Deuteronomy, when he was telling the people, tear down their idols, don't build anything there or at that time. Like he was telling them, don't do anything like they were doing here or at that time, trying to say it's for me, because that's not for me. That won't be for me. I will tell you a time, I will tell you where. So, and trusting God to determine, okay, God, how should we as individuals and believers in Christ carry ourselves? how should we, as one body, that's another piece. Where and how can we as the body come together and agree and say, this is how we will carry ourselves to the glory of God at this time, not hiding God, but to the glory of God at this time. So what can we do, God? Like, that would be my prayer. How do you want me to operate so that I'm being bold, so that I'm representing you? And that's where I kind of, that balance there for me.
Absolutely. It kind of sparked something interesting in me, in that, like, um sometimes we let the world take things of God and then mutilate it, but then we also go doing we do the same thing with things of the world, but we don't do it nearly as well in, like, thanks, Michael. We don't do it nearly as well in turning it for the glory of our God. And so that's what I have to say, that I have to think with Christmas, right? I know we're supposed to be focused on Halloween, but that's a good way to segue, in that, making Christmas Jesus's birthday, even though we know that it's not, and turning what was pagan, what was for the world, for the glory of Christ itself. I feel like we didn't do it nearly as well, because we still keep a lot of the pagan things. Although I'll be completely blunt and honest, just like to expose myself, I still put up Christmas trees and things like that. I do know about the verse in Jeremiah. Yeah, because I think that they're pretty. I think they're decorations, but that's a whole other conversation. Like, that's a whole other conversation.
We'll be beating ourselves up today. That's what it looks like. We're beating ourselves up today.
That's a whole new conversation. But I just think it's interesting how we allow things that could be used for the Lord, or were already used for the Lord, and we allow them to be taken by the world. But then the things that we take from the world and try to repurpose from God, we just don't do that nearly as well. And it kind of reminds me, I was just saying how with the witches, like, they put in that work for Satan. But then as Christians, sometimes we don't put in that same effort towards God. And it's almost as if, like, in terms of just our side, like the satanic kingdom be working a little bit harder than we do for certain things. But part of that is because, as a body of Christ, we're also a little bit discombobulated at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's a bigger conversation. We got to keep back to Halloween. So I'm almost there, but I do want to say, like, what are some, like, alarming things for you around Halloween that you just be like, yeah, no, I just would not absolutely celebrate this?
Alarming things. It's alarming to me. I'm probably not the best Google searcher, but I tried to search up number of deaths on Halloween.
Oh, wow.
But on Halloween, I know that people are kidnapped and sacrificed. Cats are kidnapped and sacrificed. And so that's the most alarming thing for me, because you don't know who's doing that. That's where it's alarming for me, is you don't know who out there is taking people, and then you're meeting them in Ingles the next day. You don't know who that person could be. You don't know who has died on this day being a sacrifice, not even sacrificing, their time or energy to God, but they're being sacrificed, their flesh and their body, in honor of someone that wishes destruction of all mankind. And so that's the thing that puzzles me the most. Is it's just like, we'll keep doing it. We don't care, even though people are dying. And we'll get it. Honestly, I want to kind of save that for a little later, getting into, well, should we celebrate it or not? I won't go there just yet, because I know people are wondering. But that's the alarming thing for me. And when you were talking about witches, just to put that out there so I don't forget, with witches, people are playing witches and warlocks, and I like magic. I'm into a Wicca and stuff like that. You hear them saying that, but they're saying that like they're the ones in control. But here's the thing you miss when you look at it from the Bible, and two, when you look at the real practitioners. No, one, they don't fool around with God like God's someone they can talk dirty to. They don't mess with God. They're not that foolish. And two, they are subject to the spirits that they're summoning, the demons that they are summoning. They're subject to them, not the demons and spirits working for the witch. So that's the thing that we also want to be aware of. They're servants too, not masters of.
Yeah, that's dang. that's put a lot of things in my head. But to talk about the things I find that's alarming about Halloween, especially since I just think about this often. I've been learning a lot about the Satanic Kingdom and spiritual warfare lately, just for this month. One, to teach, but also just because my friend Nick has sent me some stuff by Derek Prince, and so I fell in love with Derek Prince. I had to watch his stuff, and so the different spirits that run around, right? The different spirits that run around out here. The spirit of fear, the spirit of anxiety. But 2 Timothy 1:7, for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and a sound mind. So that counts. The spirit of fear, anxiety, and probably a few other things. Probably rebellion as well, that are like sought, and witchcraft, of course, are like sought out during this time.
Right.
Things that embody these are made and sought out during this time. Horror movies and things like people. Like I have a friend of mine. He says, "I just like being scared because it's funny. I don't like being scared. I'm a jumpy person. I don't mess around being scared."
Come on, bro.
Exactly. And so people are like seeking out these things that embody these during this time of Halloween. That's like alarming to me. And then also when we're talking about the costumes again, like the embodying, like after you told me that was something deep, but the embodiment of the spirits that at one point were supposed to be warded off, but now people are just like, oh, I want to embody a spirit that's also the embodiment of like somebody who murders a bunch of people. I'm also the embodiment of a spirit that causes people anxiety or attacks their dreams or causes some fear and things. So that's a little bit alarming to me when it comes to Halloween. One of my favorite sayings of mine is that it is that deep, but it's not that deep. But I'm gonna be frank with you, it is that deep. Okay, like it does go down to those levels of things. And then naturally, the other alarming thing to me are the witches and warlocks and things, and it's behind that. But I'll say for that, I think a lot of that also depends on where you live and like where you're from. Like New Orleans or being in the islands and like Jamaica and things like that, witchcraft and voodoo might be. But me living in Atlanta, Georgia, I don't meet like witches and warlocks, or I haven't met. The prominent thing here is like there's different things for different places. So that's also alarming for me also at Halloween. And then plus our brothers in Christ, one of my favorite people to watch is John Ramirez, who like come from that side, high-ranking people from that side, and tell us, yo, there's something wrong with this holiday. Like they use this to get you to celebrate the devil and things of that nature.
Right.
So that's also as well.
We're saying that it's just like when people go to buy houses, you do that surface level research, well, what happened in this house, that type of thing. But then when you think about the location of where you live, what's common practice here? What's celebrated? What's not? What's like that common practice in this particular area that's recognized above all else? And a lot of those things have spiritual origin for why they do the certain things that they do. Like you're talking about New Orleans, their voodoo practices and witchcraft practices, sacrifices, the celebrations that they do. There's a lot of spiritual undertone to that people are just like, I'm here for this good time, not thinking about these spiritual things, and their spirits are on their backs like, bow, hey, I'm going to make myself home with you. So when you get home, you're still in that either party mode or don't care about my responsibilities mode or whatever that may be. As you were talking about spirits, you got me thinking about, you remember when King Saul went to the witch?
Yes, I was just telling somebody about that story the other day.
Do you know what a familiar spirit is?
Yes.
What do you know of what a familiar spirit is? I just want to make sure. I don't want to...
So as far as I'm concerned, a familiar spirit is somebody that will appear to you like as if they were the person. That's what they call familiar. Like let's say someone in my dead grandma. So they come to me as my grandma. They'd be familiar, but they're not really the spirit of my grandma. It's just a demon I'm interacting with. And so they give that illusion of getting to know you and things of that nature. That's what I think of, at least with familiar spirit. Yeah,
that's actually exactly what I know of as well. We're definitely on the same page and in agreement on that. So glory to God for that. And when it comes to that too, one of the other pieces to that I learned is that a familiar spirit follows the living, so that when that person passes on, they can reflect them to somebody else. So when people, like you were saying with your grandmother, so when people see the spirit, they're saying and doing things that grandmother or that aunt or that husband would say and do to make them. They were here. They said this and this. I know it's them. No, it's not them. That's something that's trying to open the door to welcome more spirits into your temple. That's the purpose of that. And ooh, like when I learned that, man, that messed me up. It's like, hold on, you see someone following me? I don't need nothing trying to copy me. You can't copy this. This is all me by myself. No one can copy this. I'm just, I'm just playing. But I mean, and one of the things that you see with that witch, you witness not only her, of course, doing the summoning for King Saul, but when she finds out who she summoned, you saw her freak out because you got me
Yeah.
summoning this prophet, man. You trying to get me in trouble? So that, like, when I say a real witch has a fear of the spiritual realm in and of itself. So when it comes to them trying to practice in those things, there's a respect for even God from witches, and that's biblical. And even when you get all the way up to Paul, just to kind of bring the Bible in here for those that are kind of looking for some word there. When you look at Paul, a witch or someone who does divination came up trying to praise the Lord in his face, and what did he do? Cast the spirit out. Boom. And that's the other thing. That was that thing too. This is another frustrating thing. If you remember, when he cast the spirit out, the people in power imprisoned him, not because he freed someone of a spirit. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the person that was doing the divinations brought them money. So they were mad that they lost money, regardless of what happens to this woman's soul or her life. And that's another thing that can be so astonishing, is that people can pursue their desires more than pursuing saving someone's life. Someone's life doesn't matter as much as what I desire in this moment. That's what breaks my heart the most.
Yeah, makes me think about Squid Game, because I was just talking to my sister about that. Because I did watch it in its entirety. I would or not should have. At this point, I don't know. Because me watching it the first time, I didn't really feel anything. But then next, after that, I see a bunch of videos where it's like, oh, you should never watch it. But me and her thought it was a political commentary on Korea, because we also watched Parasite, which was also a political commentary on Korea. So that's where we was going. But just speaking on people just throwing away somebody's life for something that they desire, everybody's just like, I'm going to kill you so I can get this money. Like, it's as simple as that, because I need this money more than you. This money's worth more than your human life, so I'm going to kill you for that. But one thing I did want to say, just to reference back to what we were talking about in terms of alarming things about Halloween, and this is something that is not huge, but I've always noticed this because I always see memes about it, is that Halloween is actually a time that lust is also prominent as well. Lust and revelry and things of drunkenness as well. I forgot about that until I just thought of that. But you ever see people like, oh, I want to dress up as a sexy nurse so I can go to this party, and things of that nature. So that's also something that's prevalent during Halloween as well. Like, people, and actually you used to see this a lot in TV and things, like just lust also being glorified. Wow, Halloween is like a cesspool for just a lot of sins. Like not I'm really thinking about that, but also just drunkenness and revelry as well. And I just want to comment on that real quick, because that's just something I was just like, that's another thing that bothers me about Halloween as well. But depending on where you are and who that you're hanging out with, and how old you are and things of that nature, you might not necessarily encounter that. You might just encounter some of the other things like spirit of fear and anxiety.
Now, just before we get into whether or not we think Christians should celebrate Halloween, I want to respond to you on that lustfulness, because okay, so as you can tell, Devin, I'm sadly a long-winded person. I get it from my preacher dad. Okay, I can't help it. So I'm sorry if I talk too much. I apologize. But did you ever watch my Naruto video?
I think I watched part of it or half of it.
Okay.
But I definitely watched half of it for sure. And I remember you talking about how you might have thought that Naruto didn't have a soul or something along those lines.
Well, I did a little bit of research into the nine-tailed fox, the kitsune, according to Japanese lore. And here's what I learned, was that the fox, if it's a male, comes to seek destruction. The fox, if it's a female, seeks to take advantage of somebody sexually to, of course, get impregnated and to, of course, do their reproduction. And so I say that because whether or not they want to believe it, and anyone that's, extremely feminist or women empowerment, they should be able to do what they want. That's a power move when they are dressing in that sexual fashion. Because although, see, we may talk about Halloween being like just about fear, 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 but they instill the fear so that something else can take dominion or dominance. So when it comes to women dressing sexually, they come to dress sexually to weaken, that weakens that man's inhibitions to say, no, I don't need to be seeking that. Well, I'm in this time where I'm drunk and I'm not thinking straight, or I'm in this state of where anything can go because everybody's doing everything. Hey, I can come and dress like this and take advantage of you. Like that's that man versus woman side. That's why you see most of the killers are illustrated in a male fashion, referencing nine-tailed fox, nine-tailed fox destruction. When you're looking at it from the female fashion, I'm here to take advantage of you to get what I want out of you. Old times they wanted to just produce children, like that was kind of a womanly thing, but now it's just a sex, sex, sex. So when we're coming together in that fashion, I get to take advantage of you in that light too, in a sexual fashion. So that's a dominance game that people miss out on when you're looking at Halloween too.
Yeah, because just speaking of, because I used to watch like a ton of videos just regarding like slasher movies and the different tropes and things, and it's always the stuff about the last girl. There's the last girl who's always the best girl. Then there's the stupid blonde that only wants to have sex, and then there's the jock, and then a few other things. And then the movie like The Cabin, that's one of the few Halloween movies where it didn't do that, and like they had put hormones into them so that they would follow those tropes and things of that nature. And so then that's another jab at like the lust of things. And then like you're saying in the box, I be want to say Karama because that's his name, because usually I just don't remember, like the destructive power always being the slasher. And then whenever you see like a female slasher, in that case, it's always somebody that's beautiful, seductive, and then while they're seducing a dude, then they murder him. So then that was the vixen, which is what you call female fox, nine-tailed fox version of that one. So I thought that was, there's so many undertones and parallels and so many things, but being a Christian is there's so much stuff you see and learn.
That's right, man. That's right. So you want to start us off on kind of hitting on what you think of whether or not Christians should celebrate Halloween?
Right. So Christians should not celebrate Halloween. I see people that be like, "Oh, I just want candy." Well, go buy yourself some candy then. If you just want candy, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think we should celebrate Halloween because I believe the spiritual warfare undertones of it are just a little bit too much for you to like willingly get into that. Now, not knowing it, okay, but to willingly get into that, I feel like you're opening things up for yourself. And so, oh yeah, just somebody said that they love both of our content. Thank you, we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
But I don't think we should celebrate it. And so I've been talking to my friend Nick a lot because he's a part of my Bible class. He's a teacher's aide there, and then I was on the phone with him not too long ago, and we was talking a lot about prayer and things of that nature. I do think during the holiday that Christians should really double down on prayer and then fighting those spiritual battles in our war rooms. Right? I think that's something that we should earnestly like seek to do, especially on Halloween, because the Satanic Kingdom is doing what they're trying to do. But then are we retaliating with that same energy towards them? Because as we know, prayer gets things to move and destroy strongholds, cast out demons and things of that nature. So I feel like as Christians, we shouldn't really celebrate Halloween, but also we should take action and towards getting into the prayer room and fighting those spiritual battles. Not everybody needs to turn into a demon slayer, okay, and become an exorcist and go out into the street and start being like, I cast out demon.
Bro, I'll stay ready. I'll stay ready. Come on. You gotta stay ready. We don't.
but like, no.
I think stay ready. You gotta have this on hand. I'm on deck. Oh look, he looking for. He ain't got it on deck. Snap.
Hold on.
I'm gonna have to protect you. I'm gonna have to protect you in this house.
Sword right here.
Here we go.
My sword right here.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yes. But right, we need like Halloween is a dedicated time, or should be a very like we should take time to really dedicate just like prayer during that time and fighting that spiritual battle and being like, Lord, get your angels, uproot some of these princes and some of these areas and things like that. Move, protect people on all types. But I don't think it's something that we should celebrate. That's definitely what I've gotten to at this point in my life.
I was going to ask you a question, but I think the Lord Himself. Well, it depends. I think He might have kind of responded. I'm not sure, so I'm gonna just put the question out there, and we'll see. We'll see what's said. You were talking about how we should do intercessory prayer at this time, to help people. When you're saying intercessory prayer, are you saying pray against the spirits that are afflicting people or trying to get into people? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just full on warfare. I'm trying my best to not illustrate spiritual warfare in the way that I do, because it's anyway. So, but just straight up warfare, interceding on those spirits and things, and just like with the power of prayer, just like, you're not gonna get on that person. You're not gonna ruin their life for a little bit and things of that nature. They're gonna be protected by our prayers and things of that nature. But then also fighting against some of the strongholds that are within people at that time, because sometimes the best defense is offense. And so during this time of Halloween, like, while the satanic kingdom is trying to build itself up, we can also be deconstructing parts of it down with our prayer and things of that nature.
Got you. I was thinking of this, and I want to word this differently, okay? Because I'm not His advocate. I want to be heaven's advocate on this. So we know the scripture that speaks of when you cast a spirit out, they will come back to find if your house is empty or clean, and it'll bring 7 more if it's not. Right? We know, of that verse?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So my question would be, again, heaven's advocate asking this, if we're doing the intercessory prayer to pray that people aren't being afflicted by spirits, but those people aren't seeking to be freed of those spirits, aren't we simply setting them up for more spirits to come into their vessel? What do you think?
Yeah, you would be correct in that nature, to be absolutely honest. Yeah, you would be correct in that nature, in terms of, like, yeah, they are going to come back. Because one thing, especially after reading the story about Legion, is that there are millions of demons up there, and they all like to infest one person. Like Legion, like, I realized, so I was like, that was 2,000 demons, not just a bunch. That was 2,000, and then all of them went into separate pigs, and then they died. And then they died, or no, then they got cast down to the pigs, and the pigs died, yada yada yada. So you're absolutely right in that nature, but I still think that there's merit for praying for protection over people, because also it goes against some of the curses and things. It kind of prevents things that might happen later along the line anyway. But at least that current temporary protection is good for people, because then the Lord might use that temporary protection to get somebody to Him, and then they're protected for real because we protected them at this one time during Halloween, right?
Right. And then that was the thing I was thinking of too, as I was actually kind of answering myself as I was thinking of the question. It's like in you praying that deliverance and that covering, you're setting them up to possibly inquire about Christ at a later point. And that's an indirect way of you planting a seed for that person. You see it. Okay. If we are truly committed to sharing the gospel, to interceding for people, to praying for people, to making a difference in this world according to the will of the Lord, we, if operating in His authority, can do just as Jesus did for the centurion. Speak without us being present for things to happen for people. That's the type of power that, and even more so, as you were saying, like with words, I don't want to be a legalist. I don't want to be in the legalism, spirituality, or religious. I don't want to give people these words, give them power over words. God is the one that has power in words. So when God, and that's not anything against you, I just want to make sure I say that. But when we speak, and when we're speaking in the authority that God gives us, and again, that means we must be in tune with Him. We can't just go, hey, I'm going to go cast out a demon today. Come out. Look, you're setting yourself up to be like the sons of Sceva. But when we're being obedient to the will of God, and that's His strategic plan. Here, I need you to pray for this area for something to change. All right, God, we're moving in obedience. And then we begin to pray. We don't have to be in the person's house. We don't have to be at their door. We don't have to do some marching around their home. We just pray, and then the deliverance will happen. Seeds will be planted without us having to do the extra stuff. And so that's where my mind goes when you were saying that, man. You stirring up my spirit, bro. You stirring up my spirit, man. That's good. I love it. I love when my spirit, man, gets stirred up. Oh, okay. I guess it's my turn, even though I already talked a mile. Celebrating Halloween. Yes.
I just want to answer this question real quick. So yeah, just somebody said that their school has a filming event where they play scary horror movies, and they decided not to go because they don't think they should watch such films. So you're right. So yeah, you're right to not go to that.
Yeah.
You're perfectly right. Even if you weren't right to not go to that, I mean, it's your decision anyway. If you don't want to see a scary movie, you don't want to see a scary movie. That's as far as it goes. But yeah, Katari, you can go on. My bad.
No, you're A-okay. Like I said, I talked a mile. But hey, although I agree with you that we should not celebrate Halloween, I say that in this fashion. No matter how you celebrate Halloween, Halloween is not necessary. That's my response, because if you're walking in the Lord, you can participate in certain things or be in certain environments and be covered. So, but it's not necessary. You don't need to go running like, okay, God's not going to let me die. Okay, I'll go celebrate this or go do this. No, it's not saying that. But what I do mean is it's not necessary. You can live without it. You will be fine without participating in this. I'd say the same thing even as I contemplate the necessity and the participation of Christmas. I don't need it to be happy, to be covered, to feel like I'm having a good time in Jesus. You don't need it. But if you are going to participate in those things, you need to be wise. So for parents, I would encourage parents to teach their children the history. Teach your children the history. That way you can teach your children an alternative. Don't teach your children the history, hide away in your house, because you give them an opportunity to have fear if you don't give them an alternative, if you don't show them the way to the Lord. So that's going to be so very crucial, is to have an alternative, intentional, strategic way, according to the will of God, to participate, to do something at that time. It's got to be according to his will and to his purpose. But teach them the history, give them an alternative. That's how I see that. But to be critical on us as Christians, the way that we cower, when we do cower, the way that we express such fear about Halloween, it makes me wonder, how in the world do you read the Bible? Like that's I'm gonna be real. How can anybody read the Bible and be scared of Halloween? You have people, someone kills his brother as soon as they get kicked out the garden. What? God kills every human being save maybe like 7 or 8 people. What? Soldiers for God are going out massacring nations for God. Come on. You have Daniel, and this kind of ties back to what you're saying about the necessity of intercessory prayer. You have Daniel praying. God sends an angel, I believe it was Michael, to come meet with him. And some evil spirit demon ceases ruling a different nation to come and stop Michael. What? How can you read that with a straight face, knowing that all of this type of warfare and fighting and battling, Christians dying for preaching the gospel, you can read that, but you can't face the fact that people are doing things where it's involving killing, where you see people dying. I get it's a different thing because the message is Christ and him saving you. Sure, I get that. But if you can read that, then you can face this holiday without fear. That's my genuine overall perspective about Halloween. That's me in 100% nutshell.
You touched on something that I be thinking about with just TV shows and movies and stuff in general. Like sometimes I feel like I know a lot of people have not read the Old Testament, just judging by how they like certain things. Because you're right. One of my favorite stories is actually the stories of David's mighty men. Now there's either 30, 33, or 35 of them. I just know that like 6 of them died, right? But like some of their feats, because they're real life enemies, by the way. Some of their feats, like killing 1,000 dudes in battle, killing so many people that his sword stuck to him because it was covered in blood. One dude, an Egyptian, that had a spear as big as a weaver's beam. I don't know. He was huge, and he killed a lion, maybe with his bare hands. Okay, but there's so many violent, quite frankly, more terrifying things in the Bible, especially if you read the Book of Revelation, that
Mm.
like things that we do face here on Halloween are kind of light work. I'm not gonna cap, just from the things that God has told us, like this is gonna happen, or you're gonna go through this, and things of that nature. And you're right. We shouldn't necessarily be cowering, but more like challenging it. Just like I'm not really. So what? It's like when it comes to witches and warlocks, like I have to give them compliments. They put in work because they're not nearly as scared of us as we might be of them. But it's not all Christians, it's just some. And I think part of this has to come from like Christian education. Like people have to learn about this before they're able to face it. Because I get that it can be mildly terrifying. My friend Nick was telling me a story about how he had to face a witch face to face. Things of nature. At first he was scared, but then he gained that power from Christ, and then he overpowered her in the spiritual realm. So
Wow.
was judging for all the things that God has given us and things like that. You're absolutely right. We ain't got no reason to really fear Halloween and let that spirit of fear come upon us. But we also need to walk in wisdom and to, not be silly about it, because some
Mhm.
people are like, yeah, you're right. Some people are like, I'm covered by God, and then they go to do something that opens up doors for demons. It's not how that works.
Yes.
God, God wants you to be smart. Okay, like he may have covered you and blessed you, but he doesn't want you to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be in trouble either, right?
Hmm. Say
And
that.
you are absolutely correct in that as Christians, we don't really need to be terrified of Halloween at all and let that spirit of fear take root.
I remember my dad was telling me a story when he went to Georgia. I think it was when my grandmother was sick or passing away.
Mm.
Sadly, my family has been attacked in the history, like my other family, not me, my immediate, but my extended family has been attacked constantly on my dad's side by witches because of people seeking them out, etc. But a witch had invited my dad over to eat, and of course, everybody in town was like, "No, don't go over there. She's a witch. She do this. She do that." And so he goes over there and he eats. And of course, you know what they try to do with the food. He was trying to curse her and trying to curse him and set him up to be sick. He ate the food, came out of there perfectly fine. Nothing happened to him, and you could see it on her face that she was frustrated that nothing was happening against him. So people don't realize the covering that God gives us when we are going to represent Him. He wasn't going to show off; he was going to represent God even before witch. And that's what's again when, like I said with Paul, Paul didn't tell the woman to get out of his face and I curse you. He said, "Spirit come out." So now she's free. You know what that makes? That makes her a vessel for the gospel to be shared to. So when
Mm-hmm.
we treat people in that light, hey, I'm gonna pray for you that you be freed of this spirit, and I'm gonna share the gospel with you because I care about your life and your soul. You change the entire game. There is no line. The line is blurred. Uh, Secret for everybody that's on here. Uh, Only because that lyric, I'm going to use that later. That new rock verse from Face Off, where he's rapping. I'm going to do a Christian partial remix. So, spoiler for everybody that's live. I'm going to be rapping. I'm totally going to embarrass myself. Um, but that's the thing with God. God's not trying to cause division. God is causing unity. So where we are able to face these types of people, we are able to show them that we love them. Now watch out now. I just said that. You didn't hear me. We're not here to simply show them God loves them. We're here to show them that we love them. And if you don't love them, you wouldn't use your time wisely to speak of them being delivered, them being free. So when you're speaking that hatred, they're devil worshippers and they do these evil things. You are revealing that your heart is not set on their salvation, and
Mm-hmm.
that golly, man. Oh, oh, I love people too much to speak of them that way.
Speaking of stories with witchcraft, my mom had told me that during birth, me and my sister, she got a prophecy that a witch was trying to cast a spell on us at birth. Because my mom, before, she already had a miscarriage,
Yeah.
right? So I just thought that was like a story when she told me, but she said that she got a prophecy that a witch was trying to cast a spell on her, so that I guess she have
Hmm.
another miscarriage in regards to me and my big sister. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Look,
Yeah, the devil.
whew.
I'm getting on hit list, so that's gonna suck for him later. But that's not the point. But dang, I lost my train of thought.
I'm here with you, man.
But in regards to witches and warlocks and going towards them and showing them love, is that like I know that I'll always speak as in we are at war with them, but the moment they surrender, we gotta bring them over to our side, like because like for one, they got vital information that we need to know, and like I dislike it when people disregard somebody's personal experience. I get that like somebody's personal experience, if it's not backed by the Bible, it's hard to believe. But sometimes God is going to use that to teach us more things, and so they have things that we need to know about Satan and his kingdom, but we need to like have that love for them and bring them over, like rather than because that's why I love my boy Nick, because he deals with this type of stuff every
You had
day.
to meet this dude.
Yeah, like and like when you approach somebody that's doing something, let's say new age spirituality, witchcraft, and things like that, although you may not approve, you still gotta show them with that love, but you still gotta dominate them in the spiritual realm too, because they be on some tomfoolery. But show them that love so that they can come over, and so then they can glorify God and then help even more people in terms of exposing the demonic things that people have involved themselves in. But that all comes from you showing them love, spreading the gospel, and then fighting them in the spiritual realm if it has to come to that, and then bringing them towards God so that he can renew them, build them up, glorify them, and then they can glorify him, and then bring more people out of that because they know more than you about those things because they used to be involved in those very things. That's why I love hearing that used to be in new age spirituality and witchcraft that nature, because they be saying some wild stuff. Like John Ramirez, like he said, like, you know, I was able to turn into like an animal. He said that he used to turn into a wolf and go into people's houses and things of that nature. And that he was saying how he would pray so that demons would get on people and things. That's something that witches and warlocks do regularly. He was saying have conversations with saying that Satan would felt very betrayed when he left him for Jesus, because Jesus like straight pulled him out of that. But he was also saying that he went through some dope treatment, like when he was heading towards Jesus, and that he didn't really receive help from God for 30 days. I mean, he was alive, but he kept getting attacked by demons and witches and warlocks and things like nature. Like he was getting grabbed and physically attacked and things of that nature, and then things come on to him. But then after those 30 days, Jesus was like, "Oh, I was just making sure that you was still sticking with me, you know."
Right.
Like, God is funny. But then now, like him coming out of that, the impact that he has on Christians and things, like the first ever sermon I watched of his, he said, if you're a witch or warlock, you have 5 minutes to get out before I either like cast the demon out of you or I convert you to Christianity and things like that. Like that is so powerful. But then it all begins with, like you were saying, with that love shown to people.
Yes. Yeah, and when I heard his message too, and when he was sharing that, man, that was truly amazing. That blew me away. Again, it didn't make me go like, "Oh snap, Halloween truly is evil." I mean, it did. It's like, okay, so my parents were right. This is what they were teaching me. These are all the stuff that people go through. We think people with the Pentagon tattooed on their head and they're out there sacrificing stuff or, doing the black cloaks. That's real. That's not. They're not playing. They're not trying to make a TV show. They are actually bringing forth spiritual threats that, again, even myself, I pray over my home. I mean, like, and just to tie this in there, oh my gosh, Devin, you're making the juices flow. Okay, I don't mind a scary movie every once in a while. Even more so, believe it or not, I actually like watching demon possession movies. Because it's pointing out that happens, and so that's the only.
You look at it for like an educational type of way. I get what you're saying.
Exactly. That's the only reason I watch those. But every once in a while, I'm definitely down to watch a scary movie. Like I had a Hellraiser phase. Like I had a phase where I wanted to watch all the Hellraiser movies. But even in my spirit, I can sense, okay, I need to leave this alone. That happens. But I do that to where's society at right now? Like, what kind of story is being told through this movie that is revealing the mindset of society today? Because a lot of people will watch that thing. So, like, there was a series. there was a series, something American Horror set 1976 or something like that on Netflix.
American Horror Story.
No, not
I
that one.
think.
There was a newer one that came out, I think, earlier this year, if not last Halloween, I think. But
Is it like
basically,
a is it like a documentary about like the different types of horror movies and how they were made?
no. It's not. It's not. But it's something 1776 or something like that. But what it was doing was, it was to summarize it, because I don't want to speak ill of it and not have my information together. That's another thing. But it had a girl living a horrible life. Then they had people in another town having the good life, but that was because someone was using witchcraft to absorb all the riches and success from one town so that they could be successful. So around the time of Halloween, people would constantly be killed, being that sacrifice, so that they could keep having their riches. And what they were trying to do with that was, it was more like a feminist move with it. They were trying to highlight, one, a woman was falsely accused and killed, and people hated that they were lesbians. So that's like, stop coming against lesbianism. That's what that one aspect of it was. And then they were saying, well, it was actually a guy, it wasn't the woman. So guys are jacked up, and the women are innocent, and they should be allowed to do what they want. Like, that was the message that was coming from that, and kind of connecting that spiritual side to it, and it being acceptable when it's doing it for the good of people. And that was that message in that. And I was just like, man, that's so disappointing that that's where we are right now. So disappointing.
It's just that nowadays, because I was watching the video, and what did the girl say? She was exposing things that were demonic, and so then a lot of people were just like, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that's demonic, things of that nature. You know, it's something that helps me and things of that nature, but they don't know how deep it goes and how detrimental it is for them. It's one thing I'll tell you about the devil is that he does like the plan because he got it from God, because he steals everything from God. And so in the long run, all he wants you to do is go to hell. And if he has to make your life comfortable for that, he'll absolutely do it. And so with like witchcraft and things, because it's getting really popular, and new age and things and manifestations and all those things, and taking things from the universe, getting popular and things of that nature, and being normalized as if this is the good thing, it's almost like they're trying to siphon from God, like, who gives you these good things, right? In a way. They're trying to siphon that from God and say, oh, this is the thing that's going to give you the very things, but then all you're doing at the end of the day is
you got, sometimes, look, you get that fire, like how God had to get real with Job. Were you there when I put the stars in the sky? Like, man, it's not them, it's me. I'm the God that put these stars here, not these divine beings that everyone has to share worship with. Yeah, astrology is I mean, sure, have fun with it, but you're just subjecting yourself to something spiritual. Even practicing astrology, you gotta be careful with that type of stuff. Letting it dictate how your life goes, that's so dangerous. That's so detrimental to your spirit, man. I had a random thought, and I apologize because I got to share it, or otherwise I'll forget, and I think it's great. So,
don't worry about it.
Remember Adam and Eve, right? I just realized what happened with Adam and Eve is in Snow White.
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me think about Snow White for a second. Let's see. Well, she did eat of an apple, and then she died, so.
Well, watch here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Keep going with that.
Okay, watch here. Someone said, hold up. Yeah, I'm about to explain it. Give me a second. I'm going to explain it. All right, so Adam and Eve was enticed to eat of an apple. She eats of the apple. Technically, she spiritually died first. She ate first.
Right.
And instead of Adam taking that leadership role to reprimand her, he ate from the tree too. So, of course, he died. And then they both get reprimanded by God. But the flip side that happens in Snow White is Snow White eats the apple, and the prince restores her rather than leaving her dead and moving on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what blew me away too. Thinking about that, I was like, does it just capture Adam and Eve here as to what Adam should have did versus what Adam actually did? And then remember this too, in the movie, the queen didn't die in her actual form. The queen died in her witch form. Just as the serpent was cursed to stay on his belly, the witch died in her current state. not in her actual beautiful royal state. She died in her fallen witch state.
So you're telling me that? Oh, hey Sarah, but you telling me that Snow White is the biggest is pretty much a Bible what if?
Yep. Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
That's why. You know what the funny thing is that people always say that, like, you should always stay away from Disney, things of that nature. Which I mean I understand to an extent, but I'm a different type of person. But that's kind of wild now that you think about it. Dang, that's crazy. That's low key I should have went. I'm not gonna cap because when I always look at that story, I think like for one, I was like, why were you disobedient to God? Like that's the first part that I always do. But the second part was like, why didn't Adam be like, didn't God tell us not to do this? Like, because he was standing right next to her. He didn't have to do any of that, right? And then on top of that, me, I would have been like, God's finna know that I'm finna do this. And he already told me not to do this. I'm finna get in trouble, I guess. And on top of that, Adam had a relationship with God too. And we don't really know how long they was in the garden and things of that nature as well.
Yeah.
So I got beef for that story, low key.
Yeah, beef. Look. You see, I know you've seen that on TikTok. Someone did a video, and it was like they had Adam in heaven, and like when you get to heaven, and he's like, look, I don't want no trouble. It's in the past. Let it go. Like, Adam, tell you, calm down. Don't come. That's what I'm thinking. It's like I wonder how many people try to go talk to Adam. Hey, remember what you did in the garden?
You better hope we don't remember. You better hope we don't. I have to go through all this.
We gotta live here. We gotta live with this guy. Look, you stay away from any tree. Adam is not allowed near any trees. You either Eve, go on, move on. Y'all need doing some. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been truly amazing, man. I love this. Like we should do this definitely more often. Like I'm having such a good time. I like Facebook Live. I mean TikTok Live. This is actually really fun.
Yes, it's actually pretty entertaining, and I think we went pretty crazy on the topic, no cap.
Yeah, me too, man. I think preferably, the people watching this are blessed. I don't know if it works. I tried to use my screen record. I don't know if it popped off or not. I don't think it did. I wanted this to be able to I wanted to save this, but I don't think it worked. Nope, it said can't record. They're lame. I wish I could have recorded this. That's okay. I think they save these on your phone. So is this your first one?
Yeah, this is my first TikTok live ever. I have to do more of these. Kind of fun. I like the format. It's pretty fun.
Me too. I started right when they switched to doing dual. Before they didn't do dual lives, they only did one person doing a live. So it saves it though. And so hopefully I can do a screen recording of it and then publish it on our YouTubes. I can screen record it, send you a copy, and we can post it on our YouTube channels. I think that'd be good. So people come back to it.
Yeah,
would you want me to edit it if I can do it?
You say you want me to edit it?
No, I said, would you want me to edit the video if I do it?
Nah, just send me the raw.
Just send you the raw one? Okay, cool. That way you can do it the way you want to do it. Is there anything else that you think we should discuss on this topic before we go? Anything we need to point out?
Probably just a quick overview. If I had to say anything, as a Christian, don't think we should be celebrating Halloween just purely from the spiritual warfare aspects of it and the amount of spirits that run around and go crazy on that day. Witches there's no need to be terrified of witches and warlocks and things of that nature because we do have power and authority over them and their demons. Just always remember that. A lot of times the reason why Christians get scared is because they just don't know like how to deal with certain things. Make sure that you're well educated in on things and then walk in that wisdom when you still decide to do it as well. It was just a fruit. And then, Marley, you can still eat your own candy. I mean, buy your own candy and eat it on Halloween. I wouldn't recommend getting candy from nobody, especially if you live in like New Orleans or in the Caribbean or just places that, witchcraft and voodoo are prominent because that just sounds like a horrible idea, right? But just be careful. But then another thing, just a call to action is that as Christians, we really got to get into that war room and get into prayer during this time to protect people and to take down strongholds and things of that nature. So anything you got to add, Kentario?
Absolutely. Hey, man, I'm on the same page with you. I definitely don't think Christians should celebrate Halloween, especially ignorantly. But I do think that if you aren't going to celebrate Halloween, teach your children, teach yourself what its history is. That way you are aware, as well as seek the Lord for how you should operate at this time. Don't just close yourself up, because even God doesn't shut himself up from the gospel needing to be spread. He did everything he needed to do to make sure we could be saved. No matter what time it is, we need to be doing the same. So I highly encourage you, use your discernment and seek the Lord during this time. Study, learn the history, learn what you can about its history, learn what it is that you're doing before you go and do it, so that you're not setting yourself up to be used by the enemy. And that's really all that I have to end this video off, my brother.
Hey, so that's all we got for our
All we got,
pod.
man. All right, y'all. Y'all have a blessed one. Hopefully, I'll get to see the video that you record today, man. I'll make sure to hit that like button for you. Again, please make sure you guys check out I Am Devin. Go to his YouTube channel, subscribe, watch his videos, be blessed. This man teaches thorough lessons so that you are uplifted and blessed in the Lord. So, highly suggest that you go follow this guy. Thank you all.
And now on the other hand, follow my man Kentario, aka Christ in Comics. Excellent man. And then as a Christian that watches anime, the way that he ties anime to Christianity is so beautiful. Go follow him, like his videos, and then of course go to his YouTube channel and then watch his Christian perspectives on certain anime and things of that nature as well, because they're awesome and they're very, very, very insightful.
Thank you.
And then again, also one of his best series, by the way, is If People Met Jesus, and he portrays Jesus really well in those series as well. So go ahead and check that out as well.
I can't tell you how exhausted that is. That people want me to do it every day. I'm like, look, I'm trying to represent Jesus. Do you know how hard that is? You can't just go say stuff off the handle. I'm Jesus right now. Oh my gosh, like it's so hard. It's so hard, man. Oh goodness. Whew. Okay. All right, everybody. Y'all have a blessed evening. Thank you, guys.
See you guys later.